Rob Wigod has spent 22 years in the CIF-Southern Section office, 11 years as Assistant Commissioner, and 11 years as the Commissioner. In August of 23, he will retire. He will tell you there's still a lot of work to be done, but in reality, he has achieved great success. Today, we talk about his career, his achievements, his legacy, and what's to come. Today on Coach's Corner, a candid conversation with the Commissioner. I'm Paul Higgins. This is Coach's Corner, and all the action starts right now. Rob, first of all, congratulations. I know it's been 22 years at the CIF office, 11 as an assistant, and 11 as, the commissioner. Would you do it again the same way?
Oh yeah, I mean, what an opportunity. I've really enjoyed it to be able to be involved in education-based athletics all day, every day. It's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I'm very grateful, and I've enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. So the fact that I'm retiring is not because I don't enjoy it anymore. I still do.
You and I were just talking. You have your two girls, and they're doing very well, and your wife, and you live close to your office. But you just mentioned you spend a lot of time here by yourself and working. How hard is that going to be for you to not do that?
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, I think I've gotten up to go to school or to work every day of my life since I would know how old I was. So yeah, I don't really know what that's going to be like yet, but there's a lot of work to do this year. We have some things that we really want to get done and accomplish, and so I'm focused on that. And as we get closer to August 1, which is my date of 23, I'm sure I'll start to think back on, well, let's see now, how do we go forward? But for now, I'm pretty focused on our work.
Yeah, and I know that you enjoy it. You talk a lot about the student athlete. You were a student athlete, a coach. You just mentioned that your last job before here was Los Alamitos coaching. Your thoughts about what the student athlete is today as opposed to 22 years ago when you stopped coaching. Your thoughts about that?
I think the student athletes are the same. I really do. Sure, things around them have changed. Maybe different environments and different focus and different emphasis and so much coverage now, national coverage. There's a lot going on in what people call the high school space. Yeah. But for me, I think, and you talk about student athletes, they're just people that we get the opportunity to hopefully touch. We get the opportunity to teach them through athletics what life lessons that they can take forward from high school. And that's really what it's about. And I don't think that's any different than when I began. I actually began coaching and teaching 40 years ago, and at two different high schools. And so I really see the student athletes out there now, and I think they're the same student athletes that we had back when I started, because again, what we're doing and what we have the chance to do for them, I don't think that's changed at all, what the value of education-based athletics is for them.
I've heard you mention many times about your support staff and coming into your office. I haven't been here in a while. And I see that everyone's very supportive, very alert of what you're doing. Can you tell us about your support staff and how they help you? And then, again, that student athlete comes into that, because they must all feel the way that you do.
We have a tremendous staff, and I say this every chance I get. They are second to none, and they're incredibly dedicated, very professional, and they really believe in what we do and who it's for. And so with that every day, I never have to worry about that. I walk in this building every day, and I know I've got a group of people committed to this and really caring about this and wanting to serve our member schools, serve our student athletes. People may not realize 563 member high schools, we have a staff of 16 people. And so sometimes they might think we have 100 people in this building, but we don't. And there's a lot of work that's done here, but again, I couldn't say enough about the support, the loyalty, the friendship, the camaraderie that this group has, because they're all in, and they put their hands on it, and they do everything they can do to be as good as we can be. And I'm just very proud of them.
You're at the top, you're the commissioner. Many people wonder, what does the commissioner do? I know that your days are filled.
Yeah.
Give us an idea what a commissioner does and then what the new person's going to be stepping into.
I think that's a great question, and I don't know that I have the best answer for it because each day almost can be a unique day.
Yeah.
There are days when you wake up expecting certain things and your whole day can change depending on some circumstance or something that comes up. I think the idea of this job is that there's a big picture involved.
Right.
I have 3 groups that I pretty much concentrate on every day, and I think about, first, what are we doing, what can we do for our member schools? I think, what do? We have an executive committee who is our leadership group, and our staff. And I always try to keep those priorities every day to think about what's the next thing we need to do for all 3 of those groups. But again, there will be days where I'm in meetings with sport advisory committees. I'm in a meeting with our leadership team. I'm preparing for our Southern Section Council meeting. This Friday I go to the state CIF Federated Council meeting. Going to a big football game Friday night. Yesterday we had a meeting of our public-private committee. This morning was the athletic administrators. And then we went down to Orange County and met with the Athletic Directors Association. And so there's a tremendous variety of what we do here as a group.
Right.
And then as commissioner, just trying to have a beat on it, stay connected to our membership, try to keep the focus on them and how we can meet their needs and service them. So like I said, I may not gave you enough of what it is, but
full day.
But it just I could just take a calendar out and kind of say, well, this is what I did this day and this day and this day, and it can be very different. There's a wide variety of things that happen here.
Seems like the spotlight, especially the last several years, has been on Southern California and high school sports. I travel the country, and when they hear where I'm from, they talk about Southern California sports. It's a big job. It's a lot of schools that you cater to, and I know there's certain achievements that you're very proud of what you've done. From the time you got here, what was your goal when you first started? I know that goal setting and writing things down is a very important thing to do. Did you do any of that? And then what are you most proud of that you've achieved up to this point?
I'm proud of many things, and again, it's been a team effort. I mean, the accomplishments that we've been able to enjoy have been in consultation with member schools, with our executive committee, with our organization. But one of the first things that is important, I think, for a job like this in a section as large as ours is communication. One thing we never had when I started was we didn't have a social media presence. And I sat down with Assistant Commissioner Tom Simmons, and he's in charge of all of our communications, and I said, Tom, what do you think? And he said, well, we need to do this. I said, I know that. So I want to credit him because we started with nothing. And then Tom, got us off the ground, and we started to have a huge social media presence, great vehicle for us to showcase our brand, to communicate with all the stakeholders out there. Right. So I'm very proud of that. I'm proud of an electronic-based system that we use called CIF-SS Home that's just revolutionized the jobs for athletic administrators, made it so much easier, cost-effective. I'm proud of the new sports we've added, especially for girls. We just added girls beach volleyball. We added traditional competitive cheer before that. We just passed a proposal to add girls flag football. We expanded girls wrestling to basically take its step right there with boys wrestling. Girls lacrosse came on board with boys lacrosse as well. But just a lot of new opportunities over the last few years for our girls student athletes. And I'm really, really proud of that. I'm proud of our 100th anniversary celebration we had. We had a great opportunity to reflect back on the organization and honor so many people that put us in the place that we're in. And so I'm proud of that. And just really feel great about our competitive equity playoff system that I think is another example of really taking a system that had been in place for a long time and changing it in a way that's providing opportunities for students, schools that have never had them. I mean, we're seeing schools who have never won championships, never had the chance to win championships, and we're seeing it play out across all of our sports that are doing competitive equity playoffs. That's been a huge thing too. So again, I think there's some others that I would put on a list, but those might be some of the more important or significant ones.
Yeah, I thank you for doing the cheer. I have 4 cheerleaders in my house, 3 boys. My daughter cheered, and I'm excited about flag football for the ladies. So in wrestling, will the ladies continue to wrestle on the men's side or the boys' side, or are they going to be totally separate now?
Totally separate. Okay. And there are state championships for boys and girls wrestling in the same venue, in the same place. Everything's exactly the same. What we're doing with girls wrestling and boys wrestling is exactly the same. They mirror each other. That sport has grown tremendously. The number of girls participating in wrestling has grown tremendously, and you have to build it for them. And that expression about if you build it, they will come it proves itself. You know, you mentioned cheer. I'm the cheer administrator. I'm in charge of the sport. I have loved being part of that evolution and that growth, and seeing us have our own championships now, and seeing the excitement. I was at a game the other night. I was at Villa Park El Medina, and at halftime, the Villa Park athletic director said, "I'd like you, our cheerleaders want to talk to you." I said, "They do?" And I said, "Sure." So I walked over to the girls, and they all said, "We just wanted to say thank you. You know, we feel we're recognized now as well as everybody else is recognized. We've had opportunities to compete for championships, and you know, we just thank you for that." And I mean, you talk about being touched and meaningful. You know, as I was saying, just those kinds of things are really, really special to me, because you know you're making a difference in young people's lives, and so. We're just going to keep doing that, and it'll continue past, you know, my tenure. And I know, again, with our staff, and I know the person who comes in here next is hopefully just going to keep us moving forward and doing more and more that, you know, for our student athletes.
Yeah, and that's an obvious question. Do you know who's coming in next, or will that be decided closer to your retirement?
You know, I do not know, and I won't really have any involvement in it. It's going to be done by our executive committee through our leadership, and they're going to launch it about middle of January. They'll launch the search, and they hope to have the new person selected by about the middle of April. That way there can be some transition time, and then we'll also need a new assistant commissioner, because my good friend and colleague Reiner Wolf, who you know well, after 15 years here serving the organization, Reiner's retiring as well. So there will be a new assistant commissioner here to go with the new commissioner, which is probably a good transition and a good opportunity for that leadership, you know, to go from here.
Right. Your thoughts about it, and if you can clarify this, because I never understand it when it happens. When you do re-league, I remember back when I started, what the South Coast League was, what the Seaview League was, Pacific Coast League, all the different leagues, Sunset League, and I understood it and figured it out. How does it change and how does it evolve? And then is CIF the one that re-leagues it, or tell me about that?
You know, re-leaguing is handled in the local areas, the geographic areas. So let's take Orange County, for example. So the Orange County schools meet and they form the leagues that they wish to form for the member schools in the Orange County area. Every school needs to be in a league. You can't make a re-leaguing plan and leave anybody out. But I think the thing we're seeing a lot more happening in re-leaguing is more flexibility. Re-leaguing always used to be done every 4 years. They're doing it every 2 years now. 4 years was a long time. If you had it wrong after year one, there were 3 more years to go before you could do anything about it.
A freshman could suffer through all that.
Absolutely, and we saw that. So now doing it every 2 years has been really important. Our competitive equity playoffs have helped a lot, because now it was used to be done by league, and your whole league went to the same division. Well, sometimes that wasn't a good thing. The team at the top, so much better than the rest of them, but they all got sent to the same division. Now that's helping re-leaguing, because they know they can still go to the playoff division that works for them as a school, versus kind of being thrown into a league and into a division by league that wasn't good for them. And the other thing that we have is what we call athletic conferences. In Orange County, there's several examples. And what that means is they put schools together. They need a minimum of 8, and they can do it actually by sport. They can decide to have a softball league with these schools, and that could be different than the baseball league. And that's given them a lot of flexibility. And again, the whole idea, Paul, is we're just trying to make a competitive situation where schools and students have a chance to compete. Doesn't mean they're always going to win, but that they had a chance. And that's really the number one issue. Not public school, private school, large, medium, small. None of that is as important as your competitive level. That's been our philosophy. Are you good? Are you not good? And you should play the schools that you should be playing in the same basic competitive element that you're in.
Up next, my conversation with Commissioner Rob Wigod continues as we discuss the NIL, re-leaguing, the shortage of refs, and what's to come when he leaves. More after this.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and... I am totally a hot person. Right, guys? Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Your job is not always easy. And I was a student athlete at San Clemente and Capistrano Valley. and I had the opportunity to wrestle, and I was a skateboarder, and I had a great time, just a great experience. And out of nowhere, things started to evolve for me in covering sports, and this was amazing to watch everything that has happened, and new schools being built, and all that is real fun. But sometimes that causes headaches for you, and causes, how do you do this and do that? And I wanted to ask you, when a new school gets started, it starts off small and then it grows up. And as these new schools pop in, what is the philosophy of the sports programs and building them to a prominent program where they can compete with other schools?
I always, when I was athletic director, I thought, I would really love to open a new school. You know, what an exciting thing that would be. Start on day one and get the tradition going, everything else.
Yeah.
Every athletic director I've talked to about that, who's done it, said I was crazy. But having said that, I think what we want to do with the small schools when they start is just help them grow and help them get established where they can get the rules right, they can get the processes right, they can get everything lined up for them to continue to progress forward. But it's a big effort when you start a school. You don't have any seniors yet. You don't have the upper class yet. You have to find games. You have to hire the coaching staff. You've got the facilities coming. You know, there's just so many challenges to opening up a new school. But then, you know, after that sweet spot, so to speak, of 2, 3, 4 years of established presence there, then you've seen, you know, really exciting times for them. And when the first time, you know, you talk about a school like San Clemente, it's got tons of tradition, tons of years of alumni who come back. Well, these new schools have none of that. And so it's kind of fun for them to sort of make that new road happen and then establish these alumni bases and get them back to help support the program going forward. I mean, there's something to be said for being that trailblazer, that pioneer who walked on that campus on the first day of school when there had never been a campus.
That's true.
And go from there. So that's been fun to be part of that.
Yeah. I know that this is a difficult question to ask because it's always one of those things where you have hot buttons, but how hard is the Trinity League in your sense of what the Trinity League is? A bunch of private schools have a little bit of liberty here and there, but is that a challenging league for you at all? Can you, I mean, it's a great league, it's so competitive.
Yeah.
But tell me your thoughts about the Trinity League.
Well, I think they're a really great group of schools. I think they all want to be successful in everything that they do, which I admire.
Right.
We have a very good relationship with them. I've been to lots of their meetings whenever they invite me to come out. They ask questions in advance. I think they know they're very prominent, that there's a lot of eyes on them. I think they're very conscious of that. I think they're very conscious of making sure they do things right. Where sometimes I think there's a misconception that people believe, well, it's just all about things against the rules or bending the rules. And I guess, you know, my perspective, it is 100% different. They are in contact with us. They ask in advance about things. And I think they want to make sure that they're under the microscope and that they are doing it correctly. So honestly, I've got pretty good relationships, I think, with most of all the leadership in that league, but I'd like to believe I have that with a lot of our leagues. We have 88 leagues, and they're one of our 88, and while they're very competitive, we've got other competitive leagues too, and so, and then I think again, when I go back to the competitive equity playoffs, you know, you'll see the Trinity League among the rest of them, and it doesn't mean Trinity League's going to win it. There's a lot of other leagues and other programs out there and a lot of our sports that are real competitive. So, you know, I give them credit. I mean, there was a time, and you referenced it earlier when we talked, that the private schools were in public school leagues where there was only a Servite and a Golden West League and a Mater Dei and a South Coast League and that kind of model. I don't think that worked very well. But I don't know that I think the public schools didn't feel it worked very well. The private schools didn't think it worked well either. They actually didn't want that. So I credit them for saying, look, we want to be in Orange County. It helps us with our geographic situation, our travel, our costs, and we'll form a league in Orange County, and we'll be here, and we'll do our thing as the Trinity League with private schools only, and the public school leagues won't have any of us involved in them. And ironically, the one in charge of the releaguing process in Orange County is a Trinity League president, and he's been in charge of it the last 2 or 3 go-rounds because they have no dog in the fight. They're not involved in any of the political comings and goings of which schools and which league. They're above all that in terms of they're just not in the mix. They know their league. Everyone knows who they're going to be, and they're going to be okay with that. So I think Orange County has found a way to work.
Yeah. And that's why CIF works. Everything you just said, it's a beautiful governing body of all these student athletes. And I know you and I are on the same page with this about student athletes and about high school being high school sports. There is a business aspect to it, right? But I don't know about you, but I'm a little nervous about what's happening right now, and I'm going to mention the initials, NIL, and I know you've talked about this many times before. I don't feel good about it. Would I feel good about it if my kids benefited? Maybe, but I don't really think it's good for high school sports. I was actually disappointed when college football was starting to be played on Friday nights. I'm like, why is college football being played on Friday nights? It's taking away that aspect of that high school experience and everybody going out to support high school sports, high school football. Am I on the same page with you on that?
You are definitely on the same page. I believe what we do is very unique. Education-based athletics, high school sports, no one else does it. The club organizations, the travel organizations, which I don't disparage. My daughters played club soccer, had great coaching. I have no problem with that. But we do something different than everyone else. We're educating the student emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, you name it. We're trying to educate young people for the future.
Yeah.
So having said that, there's these outside forces. You can call NIL one of them. There's others out there that are trying to make high school sports more of a business. And that is a concern. And it's something that is troubling going forward where, where is this going to take us? The NIL thing, the NCAA, I'm not averse to saying, it did a horrible job with it.
Right.
They had an idea, but they didn't think it through. And that trickles down.
They let the cat out of the bag too fast.
And it trickles down.
Yeah.
And now we are being faced with issues that involve high school students, high school student athletes, where no one really has control of this thing. Yeah. So we're in discussions statewide and some of our bylaws now to try to look at some ways that maybe we can help our schools and find ways to better manage this environment. Yeah. But I would be lying to you if I didn't say it's disappointing to me that we have these outside forces wanting to create a business out of high school athletics. It's not who we are.
I wonder, and I'll end this part of the discussion, but when I'm on the sidelines of a football game, I always wonder, who are all these guys? And then you kind of realize, okay, there's a different angle here, I have to ask you, and I know I only have a few minutes with you, and I thank you for your time. I have to ask you, how do you encourage individuals to become referees? Because we need refs, and they do not get a fair shake.
It's everybody's problem. It really is. And we've had a very, very severe shortage of officials. COVID didn't help.
Yeah.
It was already a problem, and then COVID really hurt because a lot of officials didn't come back. And so we are really struggling with that. But everyone plays a role. Yeah. Our schools play a role. We need to identify students as they graduate high school and try to encourage them to get into officiating.
Right.
If every school gave us one student athlete, we'd have 500 new officials. Yeah. Our officials associations have to do a better job. They've got to mentor the new officials. They've got to train them, support them, give them good assignments. So 3 or 4 years as an official and you're still working the same games, a freshman level or lower level games, you need to progress. You need to move forward. So our officials groups, they need to do their part. And really, first and foremost, our fans, our parents, our coaches, you have to treat them better.
Right.
We're paying them just fine. We've done a lot in that area. Our schools have stepped up. But if they're not being treated appropriately, they're going to leave. And that's why they're leaving. They're not being treated right. And that's a big effort we've got to make with our schools.
You just led me into my next question about parents. And you've been to thousands of games. I've been to thousands of games. And some of the things that I've heard are just mind-boggling. And it seems like it's always that parent that thinks they can still vicariously play through their child. Couple short words for those parents that maybe we call them bulldozer, helicopter, now lawnmower maybe, whatever.
I was asked one time about the good, the bad, and the ugly of my job. Good's the student athletes, what we can do to watch them perform and try to achieve their goals and reach their potential. Bad, when student athletes get hurt. Can't stand to see that. Yeah. Obviously it's part of the process, the environment, but it is hard to watch student athletes get hurt. And the ugly is the parents. And the ugliest is the parents who are lawyers. Because again, we're all focused on the student athletes and the programs and what's best for all kids. And unfortunately, parents are going to focus on their own and are more concerned about that. And so we have a clash at times with parents because, again, their only focus is their own child, and it's not our focus.
Yeah. So I know I saw this in a movie, and I know that you probably saw it too, but you're going to leave an envelope in your desk for the next person.
What's he going to say in that envelope?
Well, I can't tell you that, and I think you know it's kind of tradition that you do. But I will definitely leave a note for my successor. But I don't think it'd be fair for you to know before they know what it's going to say. I even have some ideas about it. But you know, as I said, I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity that I've had, the support I've had, the relationships I've been able to make, and I leave this with that in my mind. And I really want the best for everybody after I leave. And the next person, I will do anything and everything I can do to help them. And our staff here, you know, I'm going to be there for them too. And it will go forward. It will continue. And I'll just, my chapter will close, but there'll be more chapters to come.
Did you get an envelope when you sat down in that desk? And can you share anything that was in that
I did
envelope?
not get an envelope.
Okay.
But that was okay. I was working here, and maybe we had more conversations than anything that needed to be written down. So no, I didn't.
One sporting event, one game that you were not coaching in, but that you watched on the high school level that stands out. I have one in mind. Do you have one in your bank?
Oh boy, I have more than that.
Yeah.
I have one where, and it's hard to talk about because it actually was something that was really, really awful.
Okay.
But we had a student athlete that had passed away, had gotten hurt in a football game. And the kids at that school voted to play their next game. And it was in Kern Valley. I don't know if you know where that is, in Lake Isabella. And I said, I'm going to that game. And I drove up there, and just the courage of those young people. And so that night the game unfolds, and they're a little bit shocked. It's just tough for them, I think, to be out there and focus. They're down a couple scores at the end. They're down 15 points. And they get the ball back and they score and go for two and make it. And they get the ball back and they score again and they go for two and make it and win the game 36-35. And when the game ended, both schools came out to the center of the field in a ring and held balloons and released the balloons up. And I just, you know, it stuck with me. It was a little school, Boron High School. You probably never heard of it or know where it is. But that community was just devastated. But it showed how sports can help heal and help people focus when they're dealing with unspeakable tragedies. So I've never left that experience, but I have a lot of others too. I've been very lucky. I've been very fortunate.
Well, that's a bittersweet experience, and it really describes who you are as a person. And thank you for doing this, and thank you for all the time that you've given us here, and also all the patience and all of the things that you do for high school sports, especially the student athlete, because I know that's what you're about. So thank you and congratulations and good luck.
Well, thank you, Paul. It's been a pleasure to talk with you. Appreciate all you do and all the years you put in. You know, you tell great stories, and you're telling the right stories, the stories about what this is all about. And we're appreciative of that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.